At the end of this Module 8, you are expected to analyze musical characteristics of Afro-Latin American and popular music. B. Performed selected Afro-Latin American and popular music in appropriate pitch, rhythm, style, and expression. C. Identified art elements in the technology-based production arts. D. Evaluated works of art in terms of artistic concepts and ideas using criteria appropriate for the style or form. E. Engaged oneself in moderate to vigorous physical activity. F. Promoted active lifestyle within the family. G. Understand child pornography and its effects mentally, physically, socially and spiritually, and H. Recommend different ways of managing health issues, trends and concerns about child pornography. Afro-Latin American Music Assessment. Week 8 Day 1 Second Quarter. Evaluates music and music performances using guided rubrics. Music has always been an important part in the daily life of the African, whether for work, religion, ceremonies, or even communication. Singing, dancing, hand clapping and the beating of drums are essential to many African ceremonies, including those for birth, death, initiation, marriage, and funerals. Music and dance are also important to religious expression and political events. We use the term Afro-Latin to describe types of music from Latin American countries that were influenced by the black slave population that came from Africa and was forced to establish itself mostly in major port cities. When the slaves were brought over, the only thing they really could bring with them was culture, whether it was music, dance or religious beliefs. They attempted to preserve as much of their rich cultural heritage as possible in their new country. This led to very interesting musical developments, as Latin American countries found themselves to be a melting pot of native individuals, slaves and European colonies. Thus, what we refer to as Afro-Latin music is simply music that evolved due to various cultures being immersed with one another, influencing one another musically. African music has been a collective result from the cultural and musical diversity of the more than 50 countries of the continent. The organization of this continent is a colonial legacy from European rule of the different nations up to the end of the 19th century, whose vastness has enabled it to incorporate its music with language, environment, political developments, immigration, and cultural diversity. Music Activity I Direction. Listen to the selected music, song from Afro-Latin American music. Just copy the URL link and play to your cell phone, laptop. Identify its musical characteristics according to musical elements. Write your answer on the given table below. Individual performance, sing and dance performance. Direction: choose a song or a dance from one of the following musical genres. You will sing or dance, plan the choreography or movements to accompany the song, use an improvised musical instrument, and record your performance on video. For African music, choose from Kwaza Kwaza, Waka Waka, or Mbue. B. For Latin American, choose from reggae popularized by Bob Marley. C. For rock and roll, choose from Beatles, John Lennon and Paul McCartney. D. For pop and OPM, choose your own song popularized by specific band, artist. Second quarter. Week 8 Day 2. Art application of different media techniques. Evaluate works of art in terms of artistic concepts and ideas using criteria appropriate for the style or form. Origin and early stages. Computer art or digital art first came on the scene in the early 1960s. Understandably, this was due to the technology that was constantly developing and that became available at that time. Thus, the early experimenters were not necessarily artists, but engineers and scientists who had access to and experience with the hardware needed. It was they who began to recognize the potential of artistic expression through the application of scientific and mathematical principles. Some digital artists have even used their works to express their views on political, social, and cultural issues, as well as to advocate causes that are critical to modern life, such as the environment and climate change. Others even explore the philosophical relationship between science and technology and the arts. Technology has literally taken over every aspect of life in the 21st century, and the creative and visual arts have not been spared. In fact, for the younger generations, art as you know it is defined by technology, from its creation, to its manipulation, to its reproduction, and even to its distribution. Technology-based art is essentially computer-generated and/or manipulated. Through the centuries, visual artists used actual brushes and palettes, and a whole array of paints, inks, and natural pigments applied to paper, canvas, fabric, stucco walls and ceilings. Today's computer artists employ the ever-expanding powers of image manipulation programs and applications to create their works, which can appear in an entire range of media, whether as a physical output or a virtual experience. Technology-based art. Technology-based art is essentially computer-generated and/or manipulated. Includes computer digital arts, cell phone art, computer-generated images, digital photography, video games, digital painting, imaging videos. Art activity. Creating a pixel art by hand. Pixel art is a form of digital art, created using raster graphics software, where images are edited on the pixel level. Computer digital arts. Computer digital arts make use of electronic and mechanical devices, rather than the artist's own hand. Materials. Graphing paper, any coloring materials. Direction. Using a graphing paper, you will create your own pixel art. By shading or putting colors in every box of the graphing paper, create your own design, image out of it. Fitness activities. Second quarter. Week 8, Day 3. Engages in moderate to vigorous physical activities for at least 60 minutes a day in and out of school. Physical activity of all kinds can be performed in a variety of intensities, ranging between light, moderate, and vigorous high-intensity activity. In this module, you as the learner, is expected to engage in moderate to vigorous activities, likewise your family members, and may use this as part of bonding moment while staying fit. Physical education activity high or low. In this part of your module, we will measure if a certain activity is high intensity, vigorous or low intensity, moderate for you. We encourage you to also assess your family members to do the same activities listed below. Note, let your family members assess you by checking the boxes below the descriptions with corresponding points after you do each activity. They may check more than one box. Record each activity and make sure that you will submit it to your teacher. Questions. 1. Have you experienced an increase in your heart rate upon doing all the activities? Why do you think it happened? 2. Why do you think it is important for you to know the intensity of the activity that you will perform? 3. Do you think you can push yourself to exceed your current performance in doing all the listed activities? How? Ways of managing health issues, trends and concerns. Anti-Pornography Act RA 9775. This act shall be known as the Anti-Child Pornography Act of 2009. The state recognizes the vital role of the youth in nation building and shall promote and protect their physical, moral, spiritual, intellectual, emotional, psychological and social well-being towards thus end, and the state shall guarantee the fundamental rights of every child from all forms of neglect, cruelty and other conditions prejudicial to his/her development. Protect every child from all forms of exploitation and abuse, including, but not limited to, the use of child in pornographic performances and materials and the inducement or coercion of a child to engage or be involved in pornography through whatever means. It is a crime and punishable by the law. Second quarter, week 8, day 4. Effects of child pornography. Immediate effects. Physical injury and pain, including sexually transmitted diseases. Feeling of shame, unworthiness, anger, and confusion. Somatic responses: headaches, stomachaches, and likes. Withdrawal and isolation. Anxiety, depression. Post-traumatic stress disorders (PTSD), including nightmares and flashbacks. Long-term effects. Exposure to pornography is harmful to children of all ages. Children and adolescents can become desensitized to pornography exposure, and this can result in acting out sexualized behaviors with other children and engaging in high-risk sexual experiences by adolescents. Seeing unfamiliar-looking bodies engaging in acts that a child cannot comprehend is a confusing and frightening experience for a child or adolescent. Addiction to sex, alcohol, smoking and drugs, and mental abuse and misbehaviors. Republic Act No. 9775 or Anti-Pornography Act promote and protect the physical, moral, spiritual, intellectual, emotional, psychological and social well-being of a child. Fundamental rights of every child from all forms of neglect, cruelty and other conditions prejudicial to his/her development. Protect every child from all pornographic performances and materials and the inducement or coercion of a child to engage or be involved in pornography through whatever means. A crime produces using child, punishable by the law. That the effects of the crime are immediate and long-term in physical, moral, spiritual, intellectual, emotional, psychological and social well-being of a child. Involvement to different activities such as counseling, family bonding, involving in the church activities, playing different kinds of sports, skills development that can enhance the talent of the child. Livelihood projects can help the victims of this crime to overcome the effects spiritually, mentally and socially. Choosing and eating the right kinds and number of foods can also help the child in their process of coping up with their physical health brought about this kind of abuse. Health Activity Activity 1, KWL Chart Directions, list down all your ideas about Child Pornography Act and the pornography scenario in the Philippines. Write the K, what I know, in the first column followed by W, want to know, in next column and lastly the L, what I learned in the last column. Write at least 5 for each column. Activity 2, Crossword Puzzle Instructions, complete the answer on the crossword puzzle correctly in vertical and horizontal. Use the hint on the right side of the paper for your clues. Activity 3, Be aware. Get involved. ACT to solve. Directions: create a social awareness campaign showing the effects of child pornography in the health of a child and the different ways on how to cope up with this kind of crime. Use the social media platform Facebook to post your work. Tag your teachers, family and friends to see your campaign. Rubrics can be used to evaluate your work.